Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Eloisa Ramos, and I am here with Connie, my friend, and my daughter, Sonia. She doesn't have her camera on, but that's okay. And we are studying the text of A Course in Miracles. Today, we're starting a new chapter. We're starting on chapter 15, The Holy Instant. And we're going to begin with section 1, The Two Uses of Time. Okay. I'll start with paragraph 1. Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely to be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Yet that is what time is for, to learn just that and nothing more. God's teacher cannot be satisfied with his teaching until it constitutes all your learning. He has not fulfilled his teaching function until you have become such a consistent learner that you learn only of him. When this has happened, you will no longer need a teacher or time in which to learn. Okay, so this is great. It would be nice, right? Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties? Just perfectly calm and quiet all the time. I mean, that's pretty appealing to me, maybe not to everyone. I don't know, but maybe, somebody would say, well, that sounds pretty boring. I don't know. But so this is saying that that is the purpose of time. And that's, of course, the purpose that Holy Spirit gives it. So our right mind would use time for this purpose, to basically to heal the mind, because obviously worries and concerns and anxieties are, symptoms of, what we would call sickness. So it would be the purpose would be to heal the mind, that is not at peace, at quiet all the time. And it's, the last line's pretty interesting, because it says that when the Holy Spirit has fulfilled his teaching function and we have become a consistent learner and we only learn of him, not of the ego, then we will no longer need a teacher, okay, or time. So at that point, time will not be, let's see, will no longer have meaning to us. Okay, does that make sense, Sonia? Is there any questions with that? Or Connie?
No.
No? Okay, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. Number 2.
One source of perceived discouragement from which you may suffer is your belief that this takes time and that the results of the Holy Spirit's teaching are far in the future. This is not so. For the Holy Spirit uses time in his own way and is not bound by it. Time is his friend in teaching. It does not waste him as it does you, and all the waste that time seems to bring with it is due but to your identification with the ego, which uses time to support its belief in destruction. The ego, like the Holy Spirit, uses time to convince you of the inevitability of the goal and end of teaching. To the ego, the goal is death, which is its end. But to the Holy Spirit, the goal is life, which has no end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything, Connie?
No.
No. Okay. So line 5, right? Line 5 says that time does not waste him, Holy Spirit, as it does you. Okay, so it's referring to, our identification with ego and the body. And obviously we believe, when we think that we're a body, we believe in aging. We believe that time takes a toll on everything. Um, so that's why it's saying in 6, and all the waste that time seems to bring with it. Okay, is due but to your identification with the ego, which uses time to support its belief in destruction. So death itself is a belief because it's a belief in destruction of physical matter, right? Um, and someone would say, well, it's just transformed. The matter is transformed. It just changes form. Yes, but as far as the body goes, if the ego convinces us that we're a body, then we actually believe that we are not eternal now, and that the end of the body is the end of ourself. So, um, so it is using time to perpetuate an untruth or a lie about our eternal nature. Um, and we've done a pretty good job of learning that and believing in that. So we've we have convinced ourselves that we are impermanent. And that's why we're so afraid of death and of dying and of destruction, of nuclear war, of changes in climate, all of that. That's all part of this idea here. Um, so, but to the Holy Spirit, the goal is life, which has no end. So life is eternal. And when we identify with a body, then we have been convinced by the ego that life is the body and that the end of the body is the end of life. Okay. Any questions on that one? No? Okay, 3. Sonia?
The ego is an ally of time, but not a friend, for it is as mistrustful of death as it is of life, and what it wants for you it cannot tolerate. The ego wants you dead, but not itself. The outcome of its strange religion must therefore be the conviction that it can pursue you beyond the grave. And out of its unwillingness for you to find peace even in death, it offers you immortality in hell. It speaks to you of heaven, but assures you that heaven is not for you. How can the guilty hope for heaven?
Yeah. Anything, Sonia?
Um, well, that doesn't make sense because if the ego wants me dead, but not itself, but the ego has no quote unquote existence without its attachment to my or the belief that I give it. So I don't.
Yeah, of course it doesn't make sense. It's insanity. That's why, you can't really try to understand the ego because it's all contradiction. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So that that's why line 4 says the outcome of its strange religion. Um, yeah, must therefore be the conviction that it can pursue you beyond the grave because it wants you dead, but not itself. Okay, so it wants to say that okay, you as a body will die. Okay, but not me. I continue as an ego. Okay, and so
Oh,
your ego self is going to continue um, beyond the grave. You're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell. Um, so, however, okay, you're not going to find peace even after death. Okay, um, because it's saying, look, you're guilty, so don't, you know, you're not really going to get to heaven. Okay, it's there, but you're not really going to get there. So you're going to end up in hell. How can the guilty hope for heaven? So buying into the ego thought system implies that we have to buy into guilt. There's no way out of it. Okay, if we buy into being a separate ego self from God, then we are in opposition to God in one way or another, and there's going to be sin, guilt, and fear there. And once we accept that, okay, then comes the belief that God is our enemy and that we're going to be punished, afterwards because of what we did, because we sinned. We are guilty of having opposed and separated from our eternal source. So yeah. So the mistrustful of death as it is of life, that's very characteristic of the ego, because it's always in fear. That's what ego is. It's in fear. Yeah. And what it wants for us, obviously, is guilt, because that assures it that it is something, when it is nothing. But it can't tolerate the guilt itself. So it's always projecting the guilt, trying to throw it, trying to see it in someone else. So anyway, yeah, and the projection actually doesn't happen. We end up holding on to it when we try to project it. So it doesn't accomplish anything. Yeah, Connie?
So here's something I notice. A lot of people in the spiritual community, or whatever you want to say, they have a thought of, oh man, I got to get this right through all this spiritual stuff, because I sure don't want to come back to this again. So there is that, yeah, that belief that they're going to come back. And so I guess there's the confusion of, I'll let you just speak to that, what you might say about that whole idea.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me like there's guilt under there,
That's what I'm
right?
wondering.
Because the fear of, if you're saying, oh man, I'm going to come back, what you're saying is basically, hey, I am still holding on to guilt. I'm still holding on to the belief in separation. I haven't been able to let it go, right? And the thing about it is that it's not a doing, it's not an accomplishment.
Right.
So we can't approach the spiritual journey in terms of ego.
I got to
Ego,
get this right. I got to just
yes,
get it right. And I don't want to come back
exactly.
and
Because
experience all this.
because
Yeah.
that's the same
Okay.
fear. It's the same
Yeah.
fear of, if I don't get it right, I'm going to come back and suffer again, which is punishment.
Right.
So there's guilt under there still, you
Okay.
see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so we have to question the guilt itself, not, oh, I got to get it right this time. We have to take a little step
Yeah.
back and say, well, wait a minute, why do I have to get it right this time? Why would I be condemned? Or why would why am I believing that this is somehow real as punishment that I don't want to come back to?
It's already right.
Well, it's an unreal experience. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving it
Yeah.
reality, then I'm going to be afraid of coming back to it again. You see?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And that's what we were saying earlier with the previous paragraph, is it's nonsense. So let's not buy into the nonsense. Let's question the nonsense, and not think that, not just assume that the nonsense is real. Yeah. Okay. Okay, number 4. The belief in hell is inescapable to those who identify with the ego. Their nightmares and their fears are all associated with it. The ego teaches that hell is in the future, for this is what all its teaching is directed to. Hell is its goal. For although the ego aims at death and dissolution as an end, it does not believe it.
Mm.
The goal of death, which it craves for you, leaves it unsatisfied. No one who follows the ego's teaching is without the fear of death. Yet, if death were thought of merely as an end to pain, would it be feared? We have seen this strange paradox in the ego's thought system before, but never so clearly as here. For the ego must seem to keep fear from you to hold your allegiance. Yet it must engender fear in order to maintain itself. Again, the ego tries and all too frequently succeeds in doing both by using dissociation for holding its contradictory aims together so that they seem to be reconciled. The ego teaches thus: death is the end as far as hope of heaven goes. Yet because you and the ego cannot be separated, and because it cannot conceive of its own death, it will pursue you still, because guilt is eternal. Such is the ego's version of immortality. And it is this the ego's version of time supports. Okay. All right. So it's a long paragraph there. Let's see. Yes. So the belief in hell is basically the belief in punishment. And so if we identify with the ego, that idea is going to be inescapable. Okay, because the guilty must suffer punishment. That's what guilt implies. I mean, it's in the world of time. It's everywhere, right? All our courts. Okay, if you're found guilty, there's punishment that goes with it. Penalties, punishments, fines, whatever. There's a cost that you pay. And so the nightmares and the fears are all associated with this because this is the let's see, you could say it's the flip side of the triumph. So then comes the failure, or it's the flip side of the pleasure. Well, then here comes the pain. And so because it's a world of duality, you're let's see, the self is trying to get away, knowing that it's guilty um, from the consequences, which is punishment. So um, there's always the fear of the future there. The ego teaches that the hell is in the future, for this is what all its teaching is directed to. Um, let's see, hell is its goal, for although ego aims at death. Okay. Yes. So to follow the ego's teachings is to be afraid of death, because we have bought into the belief that life is not eternal and that what we are is not eternal. So there's going to have to be fear of death, because it would be the unknown, basically. The time would be known, and what's beyond time, well, it's the unknown, so it's got to be dark and scary. So yeah, and so the ego is not going to say, well, it's just the end of pain. Then you say, okay, well, hey, that doesn't sound too bad, let's just end it now, right? It's like what you were saying about people being afraid they're going to come back. So that's the idea of perpetuity, of hell in perpetuity. You're just repeating the same torture pattern over and over because you're not going to heaven. You get to come back and, suffer here again. So that's basically the belief in hell, without thinking of it in terms of, fire and all of that. Um, okay, so here's the thing. The ego, now if it goes too far, that's why, the Course says suffering is a necessary expedient. That there's a limit to how much we tolerate, how much fear we tolerate, and how much suffering we tolerate before we begin to question and say, wait a minute, there's got to be another way. This is not, I'm not really, I don't want more of this. Okay. And then we begin looking for another way besides the ego. So the ego has to sort of play this double role here. It must engender fear, but not so much that it flips us into saying, okay, forget it, I'm done with this. I'm gonna look for another way. And it uses dissociation to hold contradictory aims together. So that's how the ego tells us we can minimize the pain and the suffering, is we just dissociate from it, and hey, you're good, um uh ignorance is bliss, basically. So um yeah. um yeah, so the ego's version of immortality is not the same as, eternal love. Obviously, it's the idea of this, what you were saying is that no, we die, but we don't die. We get to come back and do it again until we get it right. So that's sort of the what the ego's version that time supports. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, paragraph 5.
The ego teaches that heaven is here and now because the future is hell. Even when it attacks so savagely that it tries to take the life of someone who thinks it is the only voice, it speaks of hell even to him. For it tells him hell is here as well, and bids him leap from hell into oblivion. The only time the ego allows anyone to look upon with equanimity is the past. And even there, its only value is that it is no more.
Yeah,
Oops.
we tend to um so to believe the ego, what the ego teaches is really um to be afraid of the future, okay, because the future is hell. Um and to try to convince ourselves that we have a good here. Okay, so we're going to do our best to play down whatever, misery we have, and to compare and say, oh, I don't have it so bad. Children in Asia have it worse, the kind of thing. I have food, I have this, I have that. And so e- and so it's saying basically that um, that even when it tries to take the life of someone, um, it speaks of hell even to him, for it tells him hell is here as well and bids him leap from hell into oblivion. So it's a thought system that is so tormenting, right? Because because if hell is here, and your best option is to leap into oblivion, well, that's torment and torment. I mean, what kind of choice is that? Um, uh, and so and so and so the person tends to go to the past. So they tend to want to just live in the past. Oh, good old memories, the romanticism of the past, sort of distort our past memories to make our past stories seem funny, and we had good times together and all that kind of stuff. Um, and kind of the nostalgia kind of a thing, when people get together to socialize, to talk. Oh, do you remember this? So, we spend time doing that because we don't want to think about the future. We want to just, oh, you remember what happened? This was funny. If you it, some of the funeral services that I've gone to, they always have people going up and sharing past memories, of the person that you spend time with. And so it's all about reminiscing about this past and about how wonderful that was. And of course, we want to put the person in the best light possible. So you're always looking for, quote unquote, special moments that we shared. Um, Basically, because what we're trying to say is we're trying to say um, that there was some kind of value in a life that is impermanent. We're trying to make the best of it, um, from the point of view of being an ego in a body. Yeah. Okay. 6. Sonia?
How bleak and despairing is the ego's use of time, and how terrifying. For underneath its fanatical insistence that the past and the future be the same is hidden a far more insidious threat to peace. The ego does not advertise its final threat, for it would have its worshippers still believe that it can offer them escape. But the belief in guilt must lead to the belief in hell, and always does. The only way in which the ego allows the fear of hell to be experienced is to bring hell here, but always as a foretaste of the future. For no one who considers himself as deserving of hell can believe that punishment will end in peace.
Okay. Anything, Sonia?
I'm kind of curious about on 6. The only way in which the ego allows the fear of hell to be experienced is to bring hell here. So, so it's not, so it's only our experience and belief in hell here. You can't really I don't know, I'll let you talk about that, but I'm just a little interested in what you have to say about 6.
Yeah, because there is no hell. Okay. There is no hell. Okay. So the only way the ego allows the fear of hell to be experienced is to bring hell here, because there is no future. Okay, it's just a threat. And so it's a threat that is fearful. So there is no hell. You can't really go to hell and experience hell. There's no such place. It's an invention. Okay. But the ego can bring that fear of hell here, and we can experience it here as an unreal experience. Maybe it's insanity, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's you know maybe it's war, maybe being stuck in the middle of war, being you know any type of suffering that is has the elements of what we believe hell is going to be bringing hell here.
But here is not the present moment, right? Because I think like the dissociation thing, like people obviously use like drugs or whatever to try to dissociate and escape their
Yeah,
quote unquote reality, which is not actually reality. So I think it's a miss. They're confusing the present moment with hell, which
yeah,
is what the ego would want, right?
yeah. He's not using the word here to mean present moment
Yeah,
now.
no,
He means here in time.
yeah.
Yeah. So the fear of hell is experienced in time. Okay. Present moment is an out of time experience, which would be
Mhm.
reality, out of time experience. So this would be an unreal experience. Remember, I think we read Thursday that the only real experience, okay, is the will of God, which is joy and peace. All other experiences are unreal. So, so the ego is the maker of unreal experiences, all fear-based. That's a loss of peace. That's a loss of joy. Um, and so, that would be bringing hell here in time as an unreal experience. Yeah.
It seems like all that then is just a disguise for the guilt. Would you say?
You mean the experience, the unreal experience?
Yeah, yeah, and
Yes, but it's a disguise, but it's actually a witness, right? So the experience
yeah.
says, oh, well, the guilt has to be real because here I am being punished for it. Yeah. And man, the suffering definitely feels real. The pain feels
Mhm.
real. You know,
Mm,
so they what's the word? They support one another.
mhm,
Yeah, they witness to one another. Yeah. Hmm.
mm.
Yeah.
Tormented, as you
Tormented.
said.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7. Let's see.
I think it's
Holy,
Eloise. Is it
my turn?
Eloise's turn?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. The Holy Spirit teaches thus, there is no hell. Okay. Hell is only what the ego has made of the present. The belief in hell is what prevents you from understanding the present because you are afraid of it. The Holy Spirit leads as steadily to heaven as the ego drives to hell. For the Holy Spirit, who knows only the present, uses it to undo the fear by which the ego would make the present useless. There's no escape from fear in the ego's use of time. For time, according to its teaching, is nothing but a teaching device for compounding guilt until it becomes all-encompassing, demanding vengeance forever. Uh, okay, so yeah, mm, God did not make hell, okay, because God would not make an opposite to heaven, because creation cannot make an opposite to itself. It cannot give what it does not have. It can only create like itself. Okay, so there can be no hell. There can be no opposite to heaven. Okay, so hell is just part of the ego thought system. And it's what the ego uses to hide the present moment as fear. Yeah, that's what the line 3 says. So, um, yes. So the Holy Spirit, so the present moment is used by the Holy Spirit to undo fear. And undoing fear is undoing the ego thought system. That's what healing is. It's a release from fear. Um, so, um, so to stick with the ego's version of separation and the belief in hell, is basically suffering. You don't need to go to hell. It's already giving you a very terrifying experience here in time. And it loops. That's why it's compounding guilt, because the evidence proves I must be guilty, or why would I be suffering? Or I'm gonna believe that I'm still going to hold on to guilt, because I'm going to be projecting it. I'm going to be saying, well, I'm suffering unjustly, and I'm going to be really upset and angry at God or whoever I'm going to blame for it. So either way, it's hell. It's definitely not joy and peace. So, okay, number 8.
The Holy Spirit would undo all of this now. Fear is not of the present, but only of the past and future, which do not exist. There is no fear in the present when each instant stands clear and separated from the past, without its shadow reaching out into the future. Each instant is a clean, untarnished birth in which the Son of God emerges from the past into the present, and the present extends forever. It is so beautiful and so clean and free of guilt that nothing but happiness is there. No darkness is remembered, and immortality and joy are now. Gotta love that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the whole chapter is called the Holy Instant. So, the Holy Instant is that now, because there's no fear present. Um, and the past and the future do not exist, which is true. So it's really only the wonderings of our mind that put us into this sleep state of fear, because we're not vigilant. We're not vigilant, and the mind wandering goes back to the past, into the future. Um, and then we identify with the ego and the body. So, but the present moment offers us basically everything. So, um, that's where we find the joy and the happiness. It's in the present moment. Okay. Anything else? No. Okay, 9. I think it's Sonia's turn, maybe.
Okay. This lesson takes no time, for what is time without a past and future? It has taken time to misguide you so completely but it takes no time at all to be what you are. Begin to practice the Holy Spirit's use of time as a teaching aid to happiness and peace. Take this very instant, now, and think of it as all there is of time. Nothing can reach you here out of the past, and it is here that you are completely absolved, completely free, and wholly without condemnation. From this holy instant wherein holiness was born again, you will go forth in time without fear and with no sense of change with time.
Mm. Okay. Um, and so Sonia, so to stay in the present moment, what does that mean for you?
Well, it means to just be still or to just be in the here and now. It means that well, for me, at least when I'm in the present moment, I'm not identified with my thoughts or my body. There's no like nothing interfering with just kind of just being.
Mhm. Yes, so there's no thinking activity. There's no distracting, let's see. There's no nothing that carries you out of the present moment. Your attention, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yes. So it is a practice because it's not something that we're used to. We're used to um, trying to figure things out and analyze things and think about what we're going to do and what we have done and evaluate and judge and compare. So all of that is part of the ego thought system. And it keeps the present moment out of the awareness, um, uh, because that's where the undoing of the ego thought system occurs. So it's a very strong, um, let's see, there's a lot of opposition, resistance, and blocks to staying in that present moment, in that stillness.
I
Yeah.
actually have a pretty. So I was in San Francisco with someone, and we were going to a little like parade festival. We ended up stopping at Little Italy to eat. But I was noticing like because that day I haven't been using my phone. So usually people like that are my age or whatever, we're always so used to being on our phones like constantly. Like whenever there's like a moment of like even when we're standing in a line or like just literally on the train or like I don't know, just waiting for something, like everyone has their phones out. And I've done it like totally in the past, like so many times. But this time I didn't do it. I tried my best to just put it away and just kind of just be present like with everything because there's so much going on in San Francisco. It's like you know. Um, but I really was starting to notice, because the person I was with is like that too, like just, you know. So I feel like I don't know if it's like the culture, the society, like we're just so uncomfortable with just being in the present moment. Like it's like severely uncomfortable. So we
Yes.
use like the phone as a distraction from that.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it is. We're not used to it. We feel really almost embarrassed you know, we don't know what to do with ourselves.
It feels like
Yeah.
we're just afraid to connect or even be aware of others. It's like we've become
Yeah.
so, sometimes when I'm in a line or something, I will purposely turn to, whoever's behind me and just say, "Hey, how's your day going?" And I've been so surprised at times. One man was so startled and like, are you?
Are you talking to me?
But he was kind of uptight about it. But usually others are, it does take them back a little bit, like, "Oh, thank you for asking." But anyway, it is so strange. It is this, like, we're so afraid to connect. Yeah. Or to just even notice others. And maybe it's become more so that way since the pandemic, but and where we are, especially San Francisco, definitely feel that more than like just being downtown Nevada or whatever. And maybe that's just my interpretation. I don't know.
Hmm. So then what would that be, Mom? Like, if that's the fear then that the
Oh,
ego is trying to.
oh yeah, definitely. The fear is going to do the everything it can to keep us out of the present moment because it's it's not there. It's an illusion. And when you're in the present moment, then there's no past, there's no future, there's no ego. Um, it's just being, it's all just being. So the experience of being is the experience of oneness. So it's basically yeah an out of time experience. Um,
So that's what I meant. I think people are afraid to join, and they think the phone will keep them away or whatever, any distraction to keep away from that joining with others.
well, because remember that we're protecting a self-identity.
Yeah,
So it would be very fearful to lose that sense of self that I've made for myself. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's a fear of believing that well, it's basically the fear of death, okay, symbolically, because uh my self-identity is not there anymore. Who am I? Do you see what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah, there's nothing there. It's, yeah.
there's nothing there.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that idea itself is terrifying to to the ego, to the
The
ego.
ego, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find it very freeing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, let the shackles
Hmm.
go. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because what it's saying is there's nothing there. There's nothing real about my experience as as a separate self, as a separate body, which brings into question everything that I've taught myself. So, um, it- the idea of time implies change, implies all these things, and now we're talking about saying, well, none of that is true.
Oh, I wanted to ask Sonia, so how was that then once you just, don't plug into the phone and then you're just in San Francisco, just and in a line and just being with what's there.
I
How did
mean,
how was
how was it?
yeah, how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice because I really just enjoyed just like
Mm,
looking at people, like just kind of, I didn't,
mhm,
there was no sense of like judging them or anything, but what was what was funny is that I'm not sure if it was because maybe I was more open, like maybe people could kind of like tell that I wasn't on my phone, but
mm,
people were just constantly coming up to me and talking to me, like asking for directions. Like there was actually like 4 people, and I don't know like San Francisco that well, so I wasn't really like I was really confused, but I think people were just it's just kind of creates like a space, I think,
Mm.
um, to kind of just I don't
Yeah,
know,
they
like
sensed
just
your openness. Yeah,
that.
that's
But I
cool.
mean, there were points though, like I remember I was sitting in the restaurant with my friend that was there. I ended up not getting anything because I just wasn't hungry, but I wasn't on my phone and I was just sitting there. I could remember there was a kind of a sense of uncomfortableness because I wasn't on my phone. Like I just had to sit, I was just sitting there, like just
Mhm.
being, you know, but
Mhm.
but then after a while I kind of let that go and then it was more like it was fine. There wasn't that sense of uncomfortableness. But
Oh, because you weren't like doing what everyone else was doing.
yeah, because she was on the phone and like other people were also on their phones or, talking and so it was literally just me in that little restaurant just kind of
Oh,
looking up, just doing literally nothing. I was actually doing nothing.
oh, what a perfect teaching moment. It was all perfect for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
There are no accidents, right? We get to really look at what's going on in us.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 10, paragraph 10. I don't remember who just read it. It might have been me that just read.
Hmm.
Do-
No, I think, didn't I just read no darkness is on 8? Or did we do 9?
Um,
I thought I just read 8, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Sonia,
we just
maybe.
read 8.
we read it?
Okay,
Okay, so we're on 9.
so it's Sonia. Okay.
Wait, wait a
Oh, maybe
second.
we did read
No,
8.
we
Yeah, we
did
did.
read 8. I think we already read 9.
Yeah, it's your, okay, you are Eloisa 10.
Okay.
Ooh,
Time
sorry.
is inconceivable without change, yet holiness does not change. Learn from this instant more than merely that hell does not exist. In this redeeming instant lies heaven, and heaven will not change, for the birth into the holy present is salvation from change. Change is an illusion taught by those who cannot see themselves as guiltless. There is no change in heaven because there is no change in God. In the holy instant in which you see yourself as bright with freedom, you will remember God, for remembering Him is to remember freedom. Okay. All right. So this is about change. So the way we measure time is by looking at things that appear to change, right? I mean, we look at our seasons, we say, okay, well, hey, the leaves on the tree are green now. So that's springtime. The leaves on the tree are brown now. That's autumn, fall time. So we're measuring time based on what we perceive as things changing, color changing, shape changing, whatever. Um, and this is saying holiness does not change, okay? Um, because holiness is not subject to seeing with the body's eyes. Okay. So we don't recognize holiness, our holiness, or the holiness of all of creation by looking through the body's eyes, which perceive change and perceive time because they look at physical things. They look at bodies. They see bodies, they see objects, they see separation. Okay, so so this instant teaches us more than hell does not exist. It teaches us that the true self, the holiness of which we are created with, um, um, is non-changing, and so it's not possible for anything to have happened. It's not possible for time to be real, because it stands for change. It's a symbol of change. So only eternity is reality, and in that instant lies heaven, because that's eternity. And of course, heaven will not change. It's eternity. And that's the salvation from the belief that we are in time as something that changes. Okay, so so being in the present moment reminds us of the truth, um, of the truth that the separation never happened, that we are still eternal, changeless, and in heaven with God. Yeah, change is an illusion. Um, and of course, to believe that you're guilty would mean that we have changed how God created us. So we would have to believe in change if we believe we can be guilty or sinful or fearful, because we would no longer be how God created us, because God is changeless, and so we would be created changeless, in the same way. So the holy instant is a release from time, which is what freedom is, because it's freedom from the illusion of being subject to the loss of time. Let's see, today's lesson, well, yesterday's lesson, I think it was, I am under no laws but God's, and today's was, what was today, Sonia?
I am entitled to miracles.
Yes, so, yes, so you will remember God, because the holy instant is the present memory of God, of eternal love. For remembering him is to remember freedom from the suffering, from the quote, hell in time, as a miracle, as a healing of the mind. So it's the miracles are seen in light, and the present moment is full of light. So that's where the miracle is seen. Okay. Okay, 11.
If you are tempted to be dispirited by thinking how long it would take to change your mind so completely, ask yourself, how long is an instant? Could you not give so short a time to the Holy Spirit for your salvation? He asks no more, for he has no need of more. It takes far longer to teach you to be willing to give him this than for him to use this tiny instant to offer you the whole of heaven. In exchange for this instant, he stands ready to give you the remembrance of eternity.
Yeah, so it takes longer to teach you to be willing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
we have a lot of resistance to it. Yeah, yeah. So it's more that than anything. Okay, let's see, 12, Sonia?
You will never give this holy instant to the Holy Spirit on behalf of your release while you are unwilling to give it to your brothers on behalf of theirs. For the instant of holiness is shared and cannot be yours alone. Remember, then, when you are tempted to attack a brother, that his instant of release is yours. Miracles are the instants of release you offer and will receive. They attest to your willingness to be released and to offer time to the Holy Spirit for his use of it. You could just swap release for forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because we're releasing ourselves from guilt. Mm. So, because all attack implies guilt, there's going to be guilt, any attempt to attack. So, um, yes. So it means that the the holy instant is really for everyone, and we can't really exclude anyone from it. We can't try to make it special and say, "Oh, yeah, I want that holy instant," but you know, um, there's people that are not deserving of it. Only some people are deserving of it. Um, or let's see, or or we want to hold on to the grievance because remember that it's the grievance or the miracle. So to, holding on to a grievance automatically takes us out of the present moment. It puts us back in the past, and it's going to there's going to be fear associated with it. So um, it's um, it's a decision uh, to bypass the holy instant. Uh, you know, when we decide to hold on to the grievance because we feel justified in our attack. So yeah. So let's see. Um, Yeah, miracles are the instance of release you offer and will receive because let's see, uh, because they are a decision. Okay, they are a decision for love rather than fear. And it can be a very simple, it can be a very subtle and simple thing. So I was waiting for a doctor. Uh, They let's see. They said they would come and talk to me, so I was waiting. And they said, "Oh, I was going to leave." And they said, "Oh, well, if you wait," the doctor said, if you could wait another half hour, that they'd come and talk to you. I go, "Okay, fine." And I waited, and they didn't show up. I waited like an hour, and so for a little while there, I was starting to feel a little bit like, oh man, they could just call me. I told the nurse, they could just call me, but for a little bit, I had to really sit there and practice consciously letting go of the of those feelings of, feeling offended or hurt or whatever, being kept waiting or whatever. To just really let all that go. And and then finally the nurse comes up and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They got busy and they're not gonna come." And I go, "It's okay. I understand. It's okay." And I wasn't I didn't hold it against them at all. So I was really happy that I was able to walk away without holding anything against them. Um, and and I realized that it's a decision, in that moment. Um, and we think that we're actually forgiving them, but we're not. We're actually, um, it's for our own healing. It's our own suffering that we're letting go of, the release. It's the instant of release is yours. Yeah, that his instant of release is yours, you see? So when I release them, I'm actually releasing myself. That release is mine. Yeah. So, okay, number 13. Is it, I don't know. I don't know whose turn it is. Do you want to read, Connie? 13?
I think it is you.
I remember
You
just
read.
reading not too long ago.
Okay, whatever. How long is an instant? It is as short for your brother as it is for you. Practice giving this blessed instant of freedom to all who are enslaved by time, and thus make time their friend for them. The Holy Spirit gives their blessed instant to you through your giving it. As you give it, he offers it to you. Be not unwilling to give what you would receive of him, for you join with him in giving. In the crystal cleanness of the result you give is your instantaneous escape from guilt. You must be holy if you offer holiness.
Mhm. So that's kind of how we know. Um, by giving it, then we know that we have it. So if we forgive, then we know that that we have the love that forgives. So, mm, so practice giving, practice giving this blessed instant of freedom to all who are enslaved by time. And I mean, that's true. When you think about doctors, I mean, that's their job and they're called, at a hospital or at a clinic, they're always, you know, uh, on demand. So, and so it seems as if we are under the, what's the word? The control of time. So we're always measuring, oh, I have to be here. Do I have time to do this? Do I have time to do that? And that's not true, but that's just how it appears. So if we can be in the present moment and offer forgiveness, we are offering them that blessing that comes from out of time, which is the miracle. So it's an instantaneous escape from guilt. Okay. Because yeah, I was telling them, no, they're not guilty. I understand, they had other things they couldn't do it. And I've forgotten things, or I've gotten so busy with one thing that I forgot about an appointment or something with someone else, and that other person got offended, you know, and but but I didn't make myself guilty for it. I did apologize to them, but I didn't feel I gave myself forgiveness, um, because I didn't go into the judgment of, oh, you missed that appointment, they're going to feel hurt or they're going to be disappointed. So, okay, 14. Sonia?
How long is an instant? As long as it takes to reestablish perfect sanity, perfect peace, and perfect love for everyone, for God and for yourself. As long as it takes to remember immortality and your immortal creations who share it with you. As long as it takes to exchange hell for heaven. Long enough to transcend all of the ego's making and ascend unto your Father.
Yeah. So to the Holy Spirit, time is not real. Okay. It's all just an instant. Uh, so there's no way to measure it. There's no sense in saying, oh, this practice of Course in Miracles is going to take me, at least 50 years. There, there's no, there's no way to really measure that, because all of the healing happens in the instant, in the holy instant. Um, so, so let's see. So time becomes meaningless. The comparison becomes completely meaningless. In terms of, the ego wants to evaluate and compare and, oh, how much progress have I made, and then, we judge it and we become either disappointed, or we feel good about ourselves because we've made all this progress. But all of that is just um, um, all of that is just keeping us stuck in time, um, and is hiding the holy instant, which is um, where we want to be. Okay, 15. Time is your friend. If you leave it to the Holy Spirit to use, he needs but very little to restore God's whole power to you. He who transcends time for you understands what time is for. Holiness lies not in time, but in eternity. There never was an instant in which God's Son could lose his purity. His changeless state is beyond time, for his purity remains forever, beyond attack and without variability. Time stands still in his holiness and changes not, and so it is no longer time at all. For caught in the single instant of the eternal sanctity of God's creation, it is transformed into forever. Give the eternal instant that eternity may be remembered for you. In that shining instant of perfect release, offer the miracle of the holy instant through the Holy Spirit, and leave his giving it to you to him. Okay. So if we are willing to give it, Holy Spirit we will receive it from the Holy Spirit. Yeah, so time is your friend. So yeah, I like to say, all I have is time, really. So I don't see time as an enemy. I do see it, you know, um, in terms of giving it the purpose. Everything has the purpose for the healing of the mind, so that it makes it a little easier to stay out of the judging of what happens in a situation. Let's see. So the Holy Spirit is restoring God's whole power to us. And let's see. It's a it's not even that. Let's see. We're so used to believing that we're in time and that we're controlled by external forces that we perceive ourselves as powerless in many situations. Okay. So to say that the Holy Spirit is going to restore God's whole power to us is really kind of an idea that would just like blow our mind. But the miracle keeps showing us that it's true. That is true. So the more that we practice you know, the the willingness to offer, to stay in the present moment and offer forgiveness and offer blessing. Um, I think that the the more we the more we the more we recognize the strength that comes through that is ours, is God's, but it's shared. It's the shared will of God. Um, and that we don't have to suffer. We don't have to, that it's really a decision um, to um, to experience unreality, so that we're not at the mercy of our ego. We're the decision maker, and that starts becoming more and more clear um, the more and more we practice the lessons and the forgiveness. So we don't see ourselves as a victim anymore. Okay. Anything before we stop here? Nope. Okay. Okay, so that's the 2 uses of time. Okay. And so that, yeah.
Just quickly, I was looking at that title, the 2 uses of time, and then I'm like, well, but then I see there is a second section too. Yeah, which we'll do next time, the end of doubt. So would you say then that just this first thing was just about the ego's use of time then and the Holy Spirit's use of time?
Yeah, very, very
Okay.
distinct differences,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Okay.
I mean, one offers joy and peace, and the other one offers, death, destruction, and change and uncertainty, obviously.
Suffering.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, suffering. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought maybe the next section with the number 2 on it was the second part of it, but I think it's just a separate section. The end of doubt. Yes. I can't wait to get to that one.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Sorry, that was a little of a distraction. I was just looking at the title of what we just read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's fine because, the Holy Spirit uses what the ego has made and gives it another purpose. So that
Mhm.
it's a change in perception as to how we begin to orient ourselves as our purpose, while we still believe we're in time, and while we practice the present moment. Yeah, so it's a let's see. It's a training, it's a mind training program because we have trained ourselves to follow the ego. And now we're reversing that. We're undoing that with the help of the Holy Spirit. So it's it's about beginning to look at our patterns of choosing the ego and beginning to say, okay, I don't need to do that. I can choose this instead. And obviously we see that it brings us peace and joy and happiness. So we continue that because we want that. So it becomes a self-reinforcing, um, a happy learner, you know? Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. So until next time, then we'll look forward to the next section.
Thank you.
Thank you.